What's happening, folks? Welcome back. It's time for part two of the Celtic Rebuild tier video. Today, we're going to run through the vital players and who should be sold or will leave at the end of the season before we begin the rebuild next season with a new manager, one new director of football, and of course, the new chief executive as well. I've even got the retro tracky top on for this one, so it should be a good one. Before we get into it, this video is sponsored as ever by OneFootball. It's the best football app on the planet. You can get pre-match stats, you can get lineup notifications as soon as the teams are announced on match days. You can get all the Celtic related news sent straight to your phone through push notifications as well. You can keep tabs on league tables from all around the world. You can get goal alerts from any game that you can imagine. And you can add widgets to your home screen to keep up to date with Celtic's next fixture, who it's against, what the kick-off time is, and all of that stuff. It's a great way for you to support the channel. It's free wherever you get your apps, and you can download it by clicking the link in the description of this video. So click the link below, get involved, and let me know what you think. First up, it is the vital tier, and the first man in here is Callum McGregor. I don't think there's any doubt that Callum McGregor is vital in a Celtic rebuild. We've got to keep some continuity in the team. As I said in part one, we can't just rip the squad bare and start having to sign 13, 14, 15 players next season. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen for a million reasons. We've got to keep some continuity there. We've got to keep some sort of spine to the team. And I think Callum McGregor is the ideal player for that. He hasn't had his best season by any accounts, just like everyone in the squad this season. I think there's been times where he's tried a wee bit too hard. There was a spell in about the middle of the season where he was looked at like he was involved in every goal we were conceding because he was just running around everywhere in positions that he maybe wouldn't necessarily be in. I think that was because he cared, and you can see it time and time again in post-match interviews. He's very honest at times. I think Callum McGregor, he's been brutally honest at times about the team's failings straight after some of the really poor performances this season. He's been the captain for most of this season because Scott Brown's had spelled out of the team. I think he's probably learned a lot this season. He's had a lot of success in his Celtic career, but this is probably the most hardship he's had to face the way this season's gone. I think Callum McGregor is, number one, a great footballer, and I think he's vital to keeping a nucleus of this team. As I say, we can't bin everybody, and I think Callum McGregor is the number one man in terms of rebuilding the squad and keeping that continuity there. Up next, it's David Turnbull, probably the shining light this season. He's come into the squad and done brilliantly, despite the fact that it took him so long to get in the squad. I think he should have been in it much earlier. When you think about, I think it was November, December time he broke in, right after the terrible run. His first game against Lille, obviously getting the winning goal. I think he's been fantastic. He's brilliant in that 10 position. He's obviously really young. I think there's still a lot of development in David Turnbull. Really, really impressive since he's come into the team, and he's basically hit the ground running. Once he got in the team, didn't hit the ground running in terms of as soon as he signed, he's in the team and he's excelling. That's because he didn't get any game time. But as soon as he got his place in the team, he's never really dropped out it. Maybe had one or two performances since he's come into the team that have been a wee bit below his level. But on the whole, he's been absolutely fantastic. His set pieces give us another dynamic. He's a great finisher. Goals from midfield from that 10 position. I think he's going to score a lot for Celtic if he plays in that position under the new manager. He's just been a breath of fresh air this season. And like I say, probably the shining light in a season where everyone has massively underperformed. He's done himself justice this season. And again, like Callum McGregor, I think he is absolutely vital in terms of rebuilding this Celtic squad in the summer. Third up in the vital category is James Forrest. He's missed just about all of this season because of the injury that he had. I think it was bone bruising. I think he's been out for 5-6 months now. He's coming back into the team. He made the squad for the first time recently. He's been a big player for us over many years, James Forrest. It's crazy to think he's actually been here this long now. But his numbers in previous seasons have got better and better. And I think since Rodgers came to the club, he really took his game up a level in terms of goals and assists. There's no doubt that we've missed him this season. I don't think it's the number one factor in why we've performed so poorly, but I do think we've missed him. We've missed having natural width in the team. We don't have a lot of wingers. We certainly don't have a lot of right wingers. That's why whenever we've played in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 shape, however you want to describe it this season, Ryan Christie's played from the right-hand side, out of position. We just don't have any other options in that area of the pitch. So not only is James Forrest vital in terms of the rebuild because he keeps that continuity, he's been here for years, he's an academy graduate, he understands it, he knows what it means to play for Celtic, he knows what it's like to go through tough times at Celtic, but he also knows what it's like to be massively successful as well. There's also the problem that we don't have any depth in that area of the pitch. James Forrest is absolutely vital in this rebuild. And again, like McGregor, he's been here for so long and it's so important to keep some form of continuity in the squad. The last one up in the vital tier is probably a surprise for you. It's maybe because I didn't want to put him in the sell or leave tier, but it's also because I think there might be an outside chance, who am I kidding, that we could hold on to him as Christopher Aya. He is entering the final year of his contract, and I just don't see, again, unless we pull out the bag with a new director of football and a big name manager and they can talk him round into staying for 1 or 2 more seasons. He is still relatively young. I think he's 22, Christopher Aya. I think there's a lot more development in him. I think, again, if you were to pick a standout player this season, despite the fact that nobody's hit their level, Christopher Aya would probably be it. He's shown brilliant leadership qualities at times. I think in recent weeks, he's defended brilliantly as well. And I think at times it's been really difficult for him because Julien's been missing for long spells. Shane Duffy's come into the team, who is the senior figure in terms of age and experience next to him, and just absolutely failed. Like there's just no getting away for how bad Shane Duffy's been. And then he's had Stephen Welsh in beside him, who's much younger, and then he becomes the man of experience at only 22, 23 years of age. And I think he's shown brilliant leadership at times. I think he's going on to play at a much higher level than we can offer him week in and week out, Christopher Aya. But I would love to keep him. And I just think the problems that we have at centre half, he could be vital. I don't think there's any doubt that he could be. He can be vital. The only doubt is whether we'll be able to hold on to him. And there's a lot of players entering the final year of their contracts, as I discussed in part 1, who are likely going to leave because their value diminishes as their contract runs down, and we don't want to lose any of these guys for free. And there's been a lot of speculation this season when Neil Lennon was talking about, I've got players that don't want to be here. The names chief among them that everybody speculated that it was Edward, Ayer and Christie. Those are the 3 names that everybody thought wanted away. Whether we know that was the case or not, might have been speculation, it might have been true, who knows, I don't think we'll ever know. But his contract is running down. There's no doubt there'll be interest in him. AC Milan were linked last summer, but I would love to keep him. I really would love to keep Christopher Aya, and I think he could be vital in rebuilding the Celtic squad next season. Because I think he's got a lot of quality. I think he's probably an outstanding centre half. Definitely when Julien's out, and as I say, the depth in that area is just so lacking. And the job of strengthening the centre half area of the team is going to be even bigger if we do, in fact, sell Christopher Aya. So I know a lot of you will be watching and thinking, is he mental? He's put Christopher Aya in the vital category. Aya's obviously going to get sold. And you might be right, you probably are going to be right. But I just want to keep him, and I think he can be vital. So I've put him in there. After all, who cares? This doesn't mean anything. It's just a daft video where I give my opinions. It doesn't mean anything. If it did, I'd be keeping Christopher Aya. But there you go. We come to the category that has the most players in it. Believe it or not, that'll not be a big shock to you. I said when I looked through the squad, it was actually really difficult because you could make a case for just about everyone leaving, whether their contract's running down, whether they're here on loan, they're going back to their parent club, whether they're coming to the end of their time at Celtic, their best days are behind them. You name it. There's a myriad of reasons why a myriad of players could leave Celtic this summer. So I'm going to quickly run through first the guys who are here on loan, who I think their loan spells will come to an end, and I don't think will pursue anything permanently, and I don't think they'll come back to the club. First up, it's Diego Laxalt. Really impressive in the first 5 or 6 games. Massively tailed off since then. I think AC Milan are looking for a lot of money. It's just not going to happen permanently, and he's not really been good enough to justify that sort of money. So Laxalt will go back to AC Milan, and I think that'll be the last we see of him. That'll leave one left back in Greg Taylor in the first team, but I definitely don't expect to see Laxalt once his loan spell is up. Next up, it's Shane Duffy. I don't need to talk about this in any length. We know that it's a massively failed signing. It didn't work out. We thought it was. We thought he had the characteristics that we needed, but the way it played out, he had all the characteristics that we didn't need. He just looks like he hasn't fit into this Celtic team at all, and he's made so many glaring errors. So he'll go back to Brighton. He won't return. Next up is Mohamed El Yunusi. And the thing with El Yunusi is he's been inconsistent at times, but his numbers in terms of goals are good. I think he's our second top goal scorer this season. And if you look at the 2 seasons he's been here now, he does contribute with assists and goals. The problem for me, well, Yunusi is, apart from the inconsistencies I've just said, is that I don't know what his best position is. I think his best position is probably playing off the left-hand side. We've tried him in the 10 at times this season. We've had him up beside a striker, and it just looks like he's lost at times in the game. And again, he's going to go back to Southampton. There was talk a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now, that he might have been available at a cut price. I think 5 million they were talking about. And I like Mohamed El Yunusi. I think he's a good player. But until we get a new manager in place, a new director of football, and we see what the system is like, we see what the tactical setup is, and we see if El Yunusi fits in it. Because I think the problem with a lot of the recruitment in the last 2 years is we've just signed good players without really considering how they fit into the tactical system and what we're trying to do. That might be because there hasn't really been a tactical system for the past 2 years, but we'll not get into that. I like El Yunusi. I just think he's going to go back to Southampton. And with a new manager coming in, I don't think we're going to pursue it permanently. He's been decent for us. Another one of the loan signings that maybe you'll look back in 5 or 10 years and think, oh, I remember he played for us, he done all right. But certainly not enough to justify, I don't think, going to spend big money on him, particularly if he doesn't fit with the new manager's philosophy. Next up, it is John Joe Kenny, who has kind of impressed, I think, since he's come in. I see a lot of people lavishing praise on him. I don't think he's been scintillating. I think he's a really steady player, strong, he's good defensively. He gives us a bit more balance at right back than Frimpong did. I think Frimpong was a wee bit too gung-ho in terms of attacking and needed to do a lot of defensive work and improving his game defensively a lot. I think John Joe Kenny is much more sturdy defensively, much more reliable defensively, and he does get forward, but I just think his end product at times has been lacking. And I know he's a good player, he's playing at a good club at Everton. I don't know what his future holds. I don't know if Everton are going to want to keep him. I don't know if, again, it depends on who the new manager is. Does the new manager want him? Does he fit with that style of play? Does he have the characteristics that the new manager is looking for in a fullback? We don't know that because we've no idea who the new manager is going to be. For me, he's not quite done enough to justify maybe another year's loan deal or a permanent move. And as I say, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's done fine, but I don't think he's not took me by storm, and where I think that boy's absolutely brilliant. We should sign him up if we get the chance as soon as possible. It's just not been like that. So my gut feel is that John Joe Kenny will go back to Everton, and that will be the last we hear of it. Another one of those players who just comes on a January loan deal, plays for 6 months, and then in 10 years you really will be thinking, oh, remember he played for us for 6 months, or 4 or 5 months at the end of dead rubber season. He's been fine, John Joe Kenny, but I don't think we're going to get him permanently. Now we're on to the players. We're going to come to the fringe players who are on the periphery of the squad, and then we're going to get to some of the bigger names that you'll be expecting me to talk about at some point in this video. First up, in terms of the fringe players, it's Bolly, Ball and Golly. I don't need to say anything here. I don't need to justify why he should leave, but I fully expect Ball and Golly to be sold permanently at the earliest opportunity. Next up, it's Marian Shved, who's gone on loan, and again, you hear I think at first when on his loan deal, his manager was saying he looks like he's not interested, he's not putting in the effort, but then it seemed to transform for him, and I think he turned it around a bit, and there's a couple of videos of him scoring a goal and stuff, and he becomes like the joke figure where every time he scores a goal, people are like, oh, bring Shved back, get him in the team. And I say we're really lacking in the right hand side of the pitch. I just don't really see a future for Marian Shved at Celtic. I'm absolutely open to being surprised. I'm open to him coming back and the new manager liking him, and him hitting the ground running and taking the team by storm in training and in pre-season and really making an impact. I'm open to that, but I just don't expect it. I think he struggled to adapt to life in Scotland, and I think there was more than a few murmurs about the effort he was putting in training and stuff like that. I just don't see a long-term future at Celtic for Marian Shved, and if we are going to sell him or if he is going to leave, I wouldn't be surprised if that was in the summer. Next up is Facundo Issouf Bayo, who's banging the goals in for Toulouse in League 2 in France. again, one of those lone players who goes out and then he does all right, and I hope people are joking that bring him back and get him in the team. I'm certain they're joking, because again I think we've seen for Bio, and I remember, if you remember back at last season, I was thinking, oh, he's my guy this season. I want him to come into the team and do well and contribute something. I know he's really raw. He looks quite good in the air and he's quick, but I think technically he needs to be much better to be a Celtic striker. I just don't think he's got the quality to be a Celtic striker, and he's maybe found his level at Toulouse, and that's why he's banging in the goals. But if he comes back from his loan deal, I don't expect him a long-term future here, and I think we'll sell him. Next up, in sell or leave, it is Anthony Ralston. We're obviously quite light at right back, and that might mean that Anthony Ralston stays at least for the first couple of months of the season before the window closes, while we're going through the qualifiers. If John Joe Kenny does go back to Everton without returning, Anthony Ralston's going to really be our only option there. Frimpong's gone. Obviously, Hatem El Ahmed has gone back to Hapoel Beersheva in Israel as well. So we're really lacking in that area of the pitch, and that is again with centre back, left back, goalkeeper, striker, right wing. It's one of those positions that needs addressed as soon as possible. It's probably higher up the priority list than a lot of those positions I've just mentioned there. But I just don't think Anthony Ralston has got it to be a long-term first choice right back at Celtic, and that's not a slight on him. I'm not saying that he's a bad footballer, but you just need to be excellent to play for Celtic long-term, and I don't think he's there at that level. I think he could go and have a good career in Scotland or elsewhere, but I just don't think he's got the quality to be the Celtic right back over the long term. And as I say, maybe the situation at right back with the lack of depth there means that he won't be sold or leave, but I just think it might be best if we get reinforcements in there. We're going to have to probably sign 2 right backs, let's be honest. It wouldn't surprise me if Ralston did leave. If he stays, maybe he'll go out on loan, but he is getting older, Anthony Ralston. He's not like 18 or 19 anymore. Who knows what will happen there, but I've put him in sell or leave because I just don't see a long-term first-team future at Celtic for him. Next up, it's the boy wonder, Karamoko Dembele. We all thought we would see a lot more of him this season, last season. He did get a few appearances off the bench and stuff. I think maybe towards the end of the previous season. We can see he's got ability. People have been talking about him since he was 13-year-old. And a massive internet sensation. Instagram, YouTube, you name it. I think it looks like it's going to peter out for him at Celtic. He's not had enough first-team opportunities. Again, I'm not really blaming anyone for that. I know Neil Lennon didn't give enough youth players enough minutes for one reason or another. And the club as a whole, I think, haven't done enough in terms of getting enough youth academy graduates into the first team and getting them enough minutes. Over the past 9 or 10 years, I'm not talking over the last year or two, I'm talking over the past decade. I know that there's been successes with James Forrester way back like 10, 11 years ago. Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor. I know there's been some examples, Mikey Johnston to an extent, but I just think we haven't done enough of that. And Karamoko Dembele, to get him on his first professional contract seemed like a bit of a coup for the club, and you thought that he could maybe get into the first team, learn, get experience, develop, and hopefully make an impact in the Celtic first team to the point where you'd maybe be able to hold on to him for 3 or 4 years and then sell him for relatively big money when he was 21, 22. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. I think his contract's running down and I expect him to leave in the summer, as disappointing as it might be. Now we come to some first team players who I think will head for the exit this summer. First up is Olivier Ntcham. Again, he's out on loan at Marseille at the minute. I don't know whether they're going to want to make that move permanent. I know they have, I think it's a €5 million option to make it permanent. That's basically the same amount of money that we paid for him. And when you think about the bid rejected for Porto and where he was probably at the end of the treble season, Olivier Ntcham, we could have got a lot more money for him. It just hasn't worked out like that. He came out of favour when he was here this season and towards the end of last season. And he's a brilliant player, Olivier Ntcham. I think technically he's very good. He is inconsistent. There's no getting away from that. He has been inconsistent in a Celtic shirt. And I just think his time will be up. I think whether Marseille want to make it permanent or not, I think we'll find a suitor for him. And he will move on. And it'll be disappointing because he could have been a great Celtic player. I know there was probably always that promise that he could be sold on like Moussa Dembele, like it looks maybe Odsonne Edouard is going to be as well. Kieran Tierney, the guys who come into the Celtic team and absolutely excel, they move on to bigger things and we sell them for a profit. I think that was probably the thing that was in Olivier Ncham's mind. It hasn't really worked like that. It doesn't look like he's going to make the club a great deal of profit, if any at all. And as I say, kind of petered out his Celtic career if it is going to finish in the summer. And I do expect it to, as I say, whether it's with Marseille or not. Next in the sell or leave category, it's Tom Rogic. Probably not a surprise to anyone who watches the channel that I've put Tom Rogic in this category. I think I've said recently that I just feel his best days at Celtic are behind him. He has been here for 7 or 8 years now, Tom Rogic. A wonderful footballer who's given us some absolutely unforgettable memories, and obviously chief among them is that goal against Aberdeen at the end of the invincible treble season. The last kick of the game in a season that will be remembered forever, an absolutely unprecedented, unrepeatable season. It's something that I think all Celtic supporters will treasure for the rest of their lives. And Tom Rogic, we always remember players and moments. I think any player that leaves Celtic, they are remembered fondly because they gave us big moments. That's big moments in cup finals, and derbies, and European games. And while it's not European games in Tom Rogic's case, it is goals in cup finals. It's multiple goals against Rangers. He's been brilliant for us. But I just think going forward, we've seen his best days at Celtic and it's time for him to move on. He nearly went to Qatar in the summer for £4 million and we'd all bid him farewell. And in hindsight, that would maybe have been the right time for him and Celtic to part ways. I don't know how much money we would necessarily get from this summer, but I do just feel like his time is up. And again, I know it depends on who the new manager is, and I know a lot of you will want to keep him because you see his quality, but I just don't see how he becomes a first team long-term starter under a new manager. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. I absolutely accept I could be wrong. He's not the best impact player off the bench either. We've talked about his fitness a lot while he's been here, but I just think his time at Celtic might be coming to an end. We're going to finish on three of the biggest names in the squad, and first up it's Ryan Christie. Again, as I said when I talked about Ajer, Christie, Edouard and Ajer were the three players that everyone thought Neil Lennon was talking about when he said, I've got players that don't want to be here. They are all entering the final year of the contracts, and I don't think it's any secret that they all want to leave. I think if we get a good bid for Ryan Christie, he will leave Celtic. I think he's been good. I think he's been a good player for Celtic. I think this season's obviously been massively disappointing, as it has been for everybody. I'll always remember his debut at Murrayfield when he came on against Hearts and scored that brilliant goal. I was right behind it. I think the thing with Ryan Christie is, at that point, you thought his Celtic career was just going to peter out and he wasn't going to make any impact. But he did come into the team, took his opportunity with both hands, and then in season 19-20, he was absolutely phenomenal and maybe even overperformed in that season. He's been disappointing this season. And again, similar to Stuart Armstrong, in that I don't think he's got any heartfelt allegiance to Celtic, and he does want to go on and play at a higher level. And as I say, if we get a bid, I think Ryan Christie will leave this summer. And next up, it's the main man, Odsonne Edouard. No secret that the consensus is Odsonne Edouard will be sold. We all know that. He's coming into the final year of his contract. As I say, his value is diminishing. What we can sell him for this summer is much less than we could have sold him for in the previous summer last year. But we took our chances and we decided to keep all the big players here. And listen, even in hindsight, that was probably the right thing to do. Whether heads were turned with the extended transfer window and maybe some promises about once you get to a certain level, we will sell you on and you can go on to bigger things that are made to players like Edouard. We did spend a lot of money on him at £9 million. I don't know, but I definitely think that Odsonne Edouard's time is going to come to an end this season, and it'll be a disappointing way to end his Celtic career after a season that's been a disaster like this one. But I don't think you can deny, again, we talk about big moments against Rangers in Europe. Odsonne Edouard has given us plenty of them. He's an excellent footballer. He should be playing at a higher level than he does week in and week out here in Scotland. There's no denying that. He'll go on to bigger and better things. He's a great footballer. He's got so much talent. And we'll miss him. We'll miss his goals. We're going to have to replace that, as I talked about in part one when I'm discussing Ayeti, Griffiths and Klimala. That's another massive area of the pitch for us, where if we're going to take Edouard's goals out, which is over 20 this season, considering how indifferent his form has been, we've got to replace that, and we're probably going to have to go and buy someone to help replace that, because I don't think, unless Ayeti, Griffiths or Klimala, one of them steps up and grabs their opportunity with both hands and starts banging them in next season, they're going to need help from someone else. And if we get good money for Edouard, we have to spend a chunk of it replacing him with a good calibre of striker. And I've saved the best for last in this category. It is the captain, Scott Brown. An absolutely phenomenal servant to Celtic over the years, the number of trophies that he's won, the leadership that he's shown as the captain. For most of my life as a season ticket holder, he has been the Celtic captain. So many iconic moments. As I say, so many trophies, so many major honours. I just think he's winding down, and I think I'm saying I've put him in the sell or leave category. I don't actually want him to leave the club. I can see a situation where he maybe goes into some coaching capacity. I don't know if he intends on coaching. I don't know if he's doing his badges. I don't know any of that stuff. But I'm definitely not against keeping him around, because, as I say, I think we need characters there that, like, we can't just get rid of the whole squad. And I think Scott Brown, in terms of continuity, would be a benefit, but not as a playing option. I think his playing days, as I say, are coming to an end. And I think keeping him around, if he is going to do his coaching badges, just even to be a coach as someone who can help the new manager and the rest of the new coaching staff, whoever the new manager brings with him, just help him understand the guys who are still here in the squad, the sort of situation that's happened this season. He's been here for so long. He's got so much experience at Celtic, Scott Brown, and I think that is really valuable. I just think his playing days are coming to an end. But when I put him in a leave category, I'm not necessarily saying that he has to leave the club. I think there would be some value in keeping him around. So there you go. I've ran through just about the whole squad. If I've missed anybody, by the way, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there might be one or two that I've missed. First team players only, though. I'm not going through the reserves. Like the video, comment with your own thoughts below. Again, let me know what you think. I'm sure there's some agreement. I'm sure there's some disagreement. It's all about opinions. That's what we're here for. Thank you for all the comments in the first video as well. I'm glad some of you really enjoyed it. We will be back later in the week with the build-up to this weekend's derby against Rangers. So join us for all the build-up to that, and of course the normal match day content as well. Thank you for taking the time to watch these two videos. I hope you enjoyed them, and we'll see you later on in the week. Cheers.